Every week, from Tuesday through Friday, you're paying tribute to ancient Germanic gods just by acknowledging what day of the week it is, and you probably didn't even know it. Welcome to ARNIE'S Brain Train, where today we're going to talk about the truth of Rome's so-called barbarian destroyers. Spoiler alert, they weren't destroyers at all, and their influence is so massive that you literally can't escape it in modern life. We've got incredible sources backing up every claim in the description below, so buckle up as we reveal how history's greatest villains were actually its unsung heroes. For over 1,000 years, they've been feeding us the same story. Savage Germanic barbarians destroyed the mighty Roman Empire in a bloodthirsty rampage that plunged Europe into darkness. But here's the truth. This narrative is almost completely wrong. If you could put yourself into the 4th century AD, you would see that these so-called barbarians weren't wild savages living in caves. They were sophisticated societies with complex laws, rich cultures, and intricate social structures. They had skilled craftsmen, storytellers, and even their own forms of democracy. The Goths, Vandals, and other Germanic peoples lived in organized villages where they practiced advanced agriculture and maintained extensive trade networks that stretched across continents. According to historian Peter Heather's groundbreaking research in The Fall of the Roman Empire, these tribes had been peacefully trading with Rome for centuries before any conflicts began. They exchanged amber, furs, and slaves for Roman wine, jewelry, and manufactured goods. Some Germanic warriors even served in the Roman army as elite soldiers. So why did this myth about savage destroyers persist for so long? Because history was written by the winners, and later by people who wanted to glorify Rome while demonizing everyone else. What actually caused the fall of Rome? Plot twist? It wasn't Germanic aggression. It was actually a nomadic superpower from Asia and, cue the scary music, climate change. Around 370 AD, the Huns, a fierce nomadic confederation from Central Asia, began their westward expansion under pressure from changing climate conditions. Led by warriors like the legendary Attila, they were master horsemen who could shoot arrows with deadly accuracy while riding at full gallop. When the Huns swept into Eastern Europe, they didn't just conquer territory, they triggered the largest refugee crisis in ancient history. The Huns displaced hundreds of thousands of people, fleeing westward with everything they could carry. The Goths, caught between the advancing Huns and the Roman border, faced an impossible choice: fight a losing battle against superior cavalry, or seek refuge in Roman territory. In 376 AD, Gothic leader Fritigern made a desperate plea to Roman Emperor Valens: allow his people to cross the Danube River and settle peacefully within Roman borders. They offered to serve as foederati, allied troops who would defend Roman territories in exchange for land and protection. They didn't want to invade, it was a humanitarian crisis. But here's where Roman corruption and incompetence changed history forever. Roman officials saw opportunity for profit, charging the starving refugees exorbitant fees for rotten food and basic supplies. According to historian Ammianus Marcellinus, Roman officers even forced Gothic parents to sell their children into slavery in exchange for dog meat to feed their families. The breaking point finally came at the Battle of Adrianople in 378 AD, where an enraged Gothic army annihilated a Roman force led by Emperor Valens himself. This wasn't just barbarian savagery, but these people were desperate, fighting for survival against a system that had betrayed them. Here's where the story gets interesting, because what happened next wasn't destruction, it was transformation. The so-called barbarian invasions were actually the birth of modern Europe. As Roman central authority collapsed, Germanic kingdoms didn't just fill the vacuum, they improved on what they found. The Visigothic kingdom in Spain created legal codes that blended Roman law with Germanic customs, establishing principles of justice that influenced European law for centuries. The Ostrogothic ruler Theodoric the Great turned Italy into a prosperous kingdom where Roman and Germanic cultures flourished side by side. Here's the thing, these barbarian kings desperately wanted to be Roman. They minted coins with Roman imagery, adopted Roman titles, and many even learned Latin. The Frankish leader Clovis converted to Roman Catholicism specifically to gain legitimacy with his Roman subjects. They weren't destroying culture, but this was a cultural fusion on a massive scale. According to archaeologist Guy Halsall's research in Barbarian Migrations and the Roman West, excavations across Europe show clear continuity in settlements, trade routes, and even art styles. Cities didn't burn and disappear, they evolved. Roman villa owners often became Germanic nobles, while Germanic craftsmen adopted Roman techniques. So, do you want proof that this wasn't just destruction? Look in the mirror, because the evidence is literally written in your genes. Recent genetic studies by researchers like Johannes Krauss at the Max Planck Institute have revolutionized our understanding of European ancestry. Using advanced DNA analysis from ancient burial sites, scientists can now trace the movement and intermarriage of Roman and Germanic populations with incredible precision. The results have been amazing to say the least. Across Western Europe, genetic markers show massive population mixing between the 4th and 8th centuries AD. In modern France, Britain, Spain, and Italy, a significant percentage of DNA comes directly from these Germanic migrants. But here's the kicker. The genetic evidence shows gradual integration, not violent replacement. Archaeological evidence backs this up completely. Burial sites from this period show Roman and Germanic grave goods buried together, suggesting intermarriage and cultural blending, rather than conquest and subjugation. In Cologne, Germany, archaeologists have found graves where Roman matrons were buried with Germanic jewelry, while Germanic warriors were interred with Roman military decorations. Even more fascinating, linguistic evidence shows that Germanic languages didn't replace Latin through conquest. They blended with it. Modern English contains thousands of Germanic words alongside Latin-derived vocabulary. When you say house, Germanic, versus residence, Latin, or begin, Germanic, versus commence, Latin, you're speaking the language of cultural fusion. This genetic and cultural mixing created the foundation for medieval European civilization. Without the Germanic migrations, there would be no England, no France as we know it, and no Holy Roman Empire. These barbarians didn't destroy European civilization, they literally became it. Remember how we started this journey with the days of the week? Well, that was just the tip of the iceberg. The influence of these barbarian destroyers is literally everywhere around you, and I mean everywhere. Those weekday names we mentioned? Tuesday comes from Tu, the Germanic god of war and justice. Wednesday honors Woden, Odin, the one-eyed king of the gods who sacrificed his eye for wisdom. Thursday celebrates Thor, the hammer-wielding thunder god who protected humanity from giants. And Friday? That's named after Freya, the Germanic goddess of love, fertility, and war. Every single week, you're following a calendar created by these so-called barbarians. But it still goes so much deeper. According to historian Patrick Geary's research in The Myth of Nations, the entire concept of European kingdoms emerged from Germanic political traditions. The idea of elected leaders, written law codes, and even the basic structure of medieval feudalism all trace back to Germanic customs that were adapted and refined over centuries. Modern architecture tells the same story. Those towering Gothic cathedrals that define European skylines? The name Gothic comes from the Visigothic kingdom, and many architectural techniques were preserved and developed by German craftsmen who learned from Roman masters. The pointed arches, flying buttresses, and soaring spires represent the perfect fusion of Roman engineering with Germanic artistic vision. Even our legal systems carry this DNA. The concept of trial by jury, Germanic tradition. The presumption of innocence, rooted in Germanic law codes. When you hear innocent until proven guilty, they're echoing legal principles established by those barbarians over 1500 years ago. So here's the big question. If these Germanic peoples were so sophisticated, why do we still call them the barbarians? The answer reveals something crucial about how history and linguistics gets rewritten and rewritten. The term barbarian comes from the Greek word barbaros, which originally just meant foreigner, someone who spoke a different language. To Greek and Roman ears, foreign languages sounded like bar bar bar, so they called all outsiders barbarians. Over time, this neutral term became a weapon of propaganda. Later Roman writers, trying to explain their empire's collapse, found it easier to blame savage outsiders than admit to internal corruption, economic collapse, and political incompetence. Medieval chroniclers writing for Christian kings who wanted to trace their legitimacy back to Rome continued this narrative of civilization versus barbarism. The truth is that these Germanic societies had their own forms of literacy, art, religion, and governance that were simply different from Roman models. They practiced sophisticated metalworking, created intricate jewelry and weapons, and maintained oral practices that preserved complex mythologies and historical accounts for centuries. What's truly remarkable is how successfully they adapted Roman innovations while maintaining their own cultural identity. They didn't just copy Roman law, they improved it, creating legal codes that were often more fair and comprehensive than their Roman predecessors. So there you have it, everybody. The shocking truth about Rome's so-called barbarian destroyers. These Germanic peoples weren't savage destroyers of civilization. They were the architects of modern Europe, and their influence shapes everything from our laws, to our languages, to our very DNA. The next time someone talks about the fall of Rome, remember that it was really a transformation, one of the most successful cultural fusions in human history. These barbarians didn't end the ancient world, they began the medieval one, creating the foundation for the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and the modern world we inhabit today. Thank you so much for riding the brain train with me today. If this historical plot twist blew your mind, smash that like button and subscribe to ARNIE'S Brain Train for more adventures through time and space. Don't forget to check out all of my sources in the description below, and let me know in the comments. What other historical villains do you think might actually be misunderstood heroes? And just remember, the world isn't always this simple, but it's always this interesting. All aboard for our next incredible journey through the mysteries of human civilization.